Do you want to buy a classic car you can drive every day? Then this video is perfect for you. Classics are often reserved to weekend driving due to being slower, less safe, and often more unreliable and expensive to repair than modern cars. However, this isn't always the case, and there are plenty of classics you can rely upon as your daily transport. If you enjoy this video, please like and subscribe and tell me what you'd like to see next. First up is a Land Rover Defender, a no-nonsense off-road workhorse. The Defender is a British icon, and the nostalgia has caused them to shoot up in price since they were discontinued in 2016. Being quite popular in the UK, there are plenty of parts and accessories, as well as specialist mechanics, which is useful as they famously aren't the most reliable, though they probably aren't as problematic as you'd assume. They are available in 90, 110 and 130 wheelbases, but if you're on a budget, you'll likely have to settle for a 90. Be careful when checking one to see for any corrosion to the chassis, and to test drive it to see that the engine runs well and isn't leaking oil. Other than that, they're fairly reliable and great off-road. In terms of price, they start from £7,000 at the lowest. Many have high mileages, but they're still dependable dailies. The most iconic car on this list is probably the Mini. Whilst not the most spacious or the most reliable, they're still affordable and cheap to repair and maintain. Mini would be great if you live in a city due to its diminutive size and agility. For a car so popular, the prices are surprisingly affordable. Perhaps this is due to how many of them there still are, with plenty of choice in terms of colour, trim level and engine, as well as the manufacturer. Austin and Rover Minis are about the same price and share the same mechanics, just the Mini was sold under different brands depending on where they were produced. Parts and mods are fairly easy to acquire, and there's a big community surrounding them with plenty of events. They're on the whole reliable and simple enough to carry out most of the basic jobs, although according to owners, you need to keep on top of maintenance to ensure its future reliability. Price wise, they start from less than £6,000 at reasonable mileages, and 10k can buy a well-maintained, low-mileage car. With values likely to keep rising, it could be a great time to pick up a British icon on a budget. Next, I'll move on to some BMWs. If you need a bit more practicality or want to experience retro luxury, the 5 Series could be right for you. You'll likely be looking at an E39, which is often seen as one of the best generations of the long-running 5 Series. Check for oil leaks in petrol engines, but it's unlikely that you'll be able to find a diesel or touring with less than 100,000 miles for around £10,000. In terms of price, high mileage cars can start as low as £1,000 to £2,000, but expect prices to start from £5,000 for one with lower miles. V8 535i's start from around £6,000. The E36 is often overlooked as it came between the stunning E30 and legendary E46. Whilst it may not have the reputation of these, you can still get some pretty good deals on them. The best model is probably the 328i, although all variants with 6-cylinder are recommended. Prices can start as low as £1,500, but well-maintained cars with respectable miles on them start from £5,000 or £6,000. The E46 is often called the best ever generation of the 3 Series, and as a result, the prices are a bit higher than the E36. Whilst there are some to be had at around the £2,000 mark, these have very high mileages and may cost you more on repairs or restoration than the car itself. Avoid the compact and choose from other body shapes. Later models were available with the M54 engine in the 330i, but pre-2000 cars didn't. The next most powerful models were the 325i and 328i, and these are attainable for well under £10,000. These 6-cylinder engines will likely need more attention than the 4 cylinders, so bear this in mind when buying. The diesels are generally reliable though, and return decent MPG figures. There shouldn't be too many issues with rust, but make sure that you check the service history of all BMWs before buying, as those that aren't looked after likely won't look after your wallet either. Next up is the Volkswagen Golf, in particular the first and second generations. They're reliable, reasonably practical, the GTI versions are great to drive and pretty quick for their age. The engine and gearbox are reliable in the first Golf, but look for rust, as that's the biggest problem with most classics, as the mechanics are often simple enough that there aren't too many major issues. The Mark II is less prone to rust, but it's still something to look out for. The engines and gearbox are still reasonably reliable, and the first two generations of the Golf drove well. If you want to drive one daily, check it has power steering, as most Golf buyers didn't tick this option box. If you have a budget of less than 10k, you'll have to settle with a high mileage Mark I, but there are plenty of GTRs available if you want a sportier drive. Mark II Golfs are cheaper than the first generation and often have lower mileages due to being younger than the Mark I. GTIs with relatively low mileages are available from £7,000 to £8,000. There are plenty of modifications and aftermarket parts for the Golf, as well as a fantastic VW community, so the Golf may be for you if you plan to attend car shows with your Classic, as well as daily driving it. On a similar note to the BMWs, I have some Mercedes up next, if you fancy something more luxurious and comfortable, but still reliable enough. The Mercedes W123 was made between 1975 and 1986, and was their executive car at the time. Demand was high, and customers paid extra on the black market to get their cars earlier. This is partly due to their luxurious features such as wood trim, and options like a telephone, air conditioning and a sunroof. Another reason for Mercedes selling 2.7 million of these is their reliability, being known as almost bulletproof. Many were used as taxis, and there are examples of them reaching 1 million kilometers with only minor issues. In terms of body styles, there was the saloon and the long wheelbase limousine, as well as the coupe and convertible. Electrics need to be checked, as does rust, but other than that, there are very few known problems with the classic Merc. Price wise, you can pick one up for less than £3,000. They will be high mileage, but this can be expected due to its age, and it isn't a problem due to how reliable the W123s are. Saloons are the most likely, but you can find the odd coupe or estates, which become more common as the price rises. The W123 is possibly peak Merc and won't let you down, so it could be a fantastic daily driver. The other Mercedes on this list is the W201, or 190 as it is often known as. The precursor to the first C-Class, it was the first compact saloon made by Mercedes. The real star of the show though is the 190e, which is a performance version. This came with a variety of engines across its lifespan, but the most desirable is a 2.6 litre, which has 164 horsepower. It's definitely not fast, but it's fun to drive and comfortable. Reliability wise, they can be almost bulletproof like the W123, as long as you check the car thoroughly. As always with classics, check for rust, there shouldn't be too many other issues. The Volvo 240 is another great classic daily driver, especially if you're prioritising safety and reliability. More than 2.8 million were sold, so you probably won't have a problem finding one, and parts should be plentiful, and starting at less than £3,000, they're definitely affordable. Produced between 1974 and 1993, they were popular due to their reliability and safety, as well as being pretty luxurious in higher trim levels. They're very practical, especially as estates, so if you're looking for a family car or just need something spacious, this could be perfect. The 240 is a car that can be used and abused every day, and likely won't let you down. Finally, the Volvo P1800, or 1800 as it was later known, makes another good daily. Reliable and good looking, the P1800 rose to fame after it was included in a TV series called The Saint, starring Roger Moore. A testament to its reliability was Irv Gordon, who drove his 1800S more than 3.25 million miles, meaning it holds the world record for most miles driven in a private vehicle by its original owner. In terms of driving experience, it's decent, but don't expect incredible handling. For a coupe, it's pretty practical, with a large boot and just about enough space for four. The 1800 ES is the most practical, but also the rarest, as just over 8,000 of the two-door shooting brakes were made across its 2 years in production. Like many of the cars on this list, there are a few known problems, but check for corrosion. So there we have it. That was my list of the best daily driver classic cars. Let me know if there are any others that should be on this list. Let me know what you'd like to see next.